All right, we are live on YouTube. Tom McNamara. This is Greg Trainer with Wyndham-Lyons Realty Services and Tom McNamara with Caliber Home Loans with the August 27th real estate update. How are you doing today, Tom?
I'm doing great, Greg. Good. Thanks for asking. Things are going good.
This is Greg Trainer with Wyndham-Lyons Realty Services and Tom McNamara with Caliber Home Loans with the August 27th real estate update. And it looks like we're getting a little feedback. I'm not sure if you heard that or not, Tom.
Yeah, I did. Feedback's always good. I'd like to eat twice.
Yeah. All right. So wanted to talk about some things that are going on in real estate in the greater Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky area, and let our clients know what it's going to take to get their homes on the market and get them sold. And also for our clients that are looking to purchase, make sure that they have a chance to win based on that current information. So just to give everybody an update year over year on house appreciation, FHFA, which is the Federal Housing Finance Agency, is still showing about 18% this year on their housing appreciation, which is stellar. Typically, we see between maybe 3 and 4%. CoreLogic is showing 17.2%, and Case and Schiller is right around 16.6%. So if you currently own a home, that is a great thing. And if you're a buyer, that might be a little bit intimidating, but it shouldn't be based on what we're going to be seeing in the future too. If you pull the trigger and purchase a home, you can still take advantage of some of those increases in prices. So we have talked about in the past how competitive the market is. And even though we have a recent surge in COVID cases right now, we have seen steady paces, but it's not as fast as it was. And I'm not sure, Tom, are you on the application side for new home purchases? Are you seeing that it stands steady, a little bit slower, just as busy?
I am seeing a slowdown. Part of it, I think, is because we're getting the kids back to school. I think the other part of it is people are tired. I think they're tired of putting in 10 and 15 offers and getting rejected. So you can only get rejected so many times without this, hey, I'm going to take a breath, I'm going to take a rest, and then come back in a couple of weeks. So, but I have definitely seen a slowdown on applications. I'm normally taking 20 to 25 applications a month, and I think I've taken 16 or 17 this month. So not huge slowdown, but there is a slowdown.
Yeah, and we're seeing the same thing. Typically in late July, first part of August, a lot of our buyers and sellers, people that are getting ready to list, are taking a little bit of a break because it is go back to school time and everybody's focused on that. And especially this year with COVID, there's a lot of concerns with the kids going back to school and mask or no mask or school or remote learning. So we have seen in the last few days, though, now that all the kids are getting back to school, that we're starting to get the phone calls, starting to get the emails, and people starting to spark some of those conversations. But as a whole, what we're seeing and what's being predicted is there is just a little bit of a cooling off. And as you can see with this data here, from 2020, when only 26% of the homes that were listed actually got sold above their initial asking price. Earlier this year, we were at about 50% of homes that were listed that went above their listing price when it was all said and done, which means they probably were in multiple offers, very competitive. But we're seeing that now it's dropping a little bit, and that doesn't look like a lot of a drop, but we're seeing more homes that are coming on the market. We're seeing a little bit of pullback in the buyers that are in the market right now. So it's getting better and better. It's still great to be a seller, but it's getting better and better to be a buyer. 2021 in the second quarter, we have seen that there were price gains in 99% of the metropolitan areas year over year, and double-digit gains in 94% of all the major metropolitan areas, and home appreciation. And that pace, again, is one of the things that's driving buyers to pull back just a little bit. And for folks that are looking and trying to buy a home, that can be very intimidating. But again, considering what we're going to be going through, we're going to continue home price appreciation, and that means that buy it now because it's not going to get any cheaper. So you'll continue as a buyer, per all of our talking heads and economists, to continue, even if you purchase today, building that equity over the next few years. And you and I talked about this, Tom. One of the biggest questions that we get is, do you think that we're in a bubble? Do you think the market's going to crash? And when we get that question, of course, we can parrot what all of our economists have been telling us for the last couple of years, that it's a supply issue. It has nothing to do with whether it's going to actually blow up. It's not. But that question, when they ask it, is really, if I buy a house today, am I going to lose money tomorrow? And while we can never guarantee anything like that, and we learned our lesson back in 2009, that's something you don't say in real estate,
right?
That there's always a possibility that you could. But for all of the people that are in our industry and all of our economists, and we really deep dive into it. I know you guys do at Caliber Home Loans, and you're a student of the industry, Tom, and so am I, that we don't see that happening in the next 5 years. So although the prices won't continue to accelerate where they're at 19 or so percent per year, it's still going to continue to appreciate over the next few years. There's not a short-term solution to the supply problem. And on top of it, it's much more affordable to own your home than it is to rent a property. And there's a couple of different reasons for that. And we'll talk about one of the new breaking stories from last night. Is there are a lot of people that are not paying their rent. So if you're a property investor or a landlord, you've got a couple choices. One is sell the property and put it on the market for somebody to live in. If it's a multifamily, then what you're going to do is you're going to increase rents on the people who are actually paying to subsidize the folks that aren't. Because our government's been very poor with the program that they rolled out on the eviction moratorium, getting any type of assistance to the landlords. The landlords have been left high and dry, and I know nobody has too much sympathy for a landlord, but those folks are the ones that, if the folks aren't paying, they can't evict, and they're the ones that are behind on their mortgage payments. They're the ones that are getting brutalized right now. So they're going to increase their rents on the people that are paying, and it's going to take a while to get back to it. So you can see this graph, it's still cheaper to buy than it is to rent. And it's expected that that's going to continue into the future because of the supply issues. Tom, what percentage do you think your business was 1 to 4 family rentals, that you had property investors?
Probably 10%.
And what has that been in the last year? 0?
Yeah, down to none. I mean, it's been nil. No, I wouldn't say nil. I did have a big group from California, Washington, because I lived out there for 3 years and I ran the region out there. They came to me, and they're buying in Louisville, they're buying in Kentucky, they're buying houses and investment properties in the Midwest. I had a big group of doctors from Seattle that bought investment properties near Ohio State. They're buying near universities because as part of their investment portfolios.
Yeah.
So they're buying 4 families.
Yeah, and you can see this since 1988, the median asking for rent has just skyrocketed. And you can see really since 2015, whoops, let's go back a little. From 2015 until now, that has accelerated amazingly. So the home price forecast again, Fannie Mae, National Association of Realtors, Freddie Mac, Zillman, and the Mortgage Bankers Association 421. They figure that the average for the year, and this is a price adjustment or an adjustment up from the beginning of the year where everybody said that they thought there would be a major cooling in housing, and they were predicting between 5 and 7%. Now all of these folks think that we're going to land up anywhere between 10 and 14, 15% in home price appreciation over the year. And into 2022, again, everybody is predicting a cool down in those prices. It's not going to stop. It's just going to slow down a little bit. It's just not sustainable. Numbers like that just don't continue on. But for the buyers that are out there right now, that question, are we in a bubble? No. Which that question is really, if I buy a house today, am I going to be upside down next year? And for all of these big economists and big companies, the mortgage bankers, Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae, and the National Association of Realtors, the answer is in unanimous no. Your price will still be worth, or your home price or value will be worth more next year than it is this year.
And Greg, may I add, even though those percentages are going down a little bit, 12, 14%, with the values being 250 versus 200, you're talking a lower percent of a higher value. So right. the dollars, real dollars are going up. So yep. I think of a home as part of your retirement. I think of a home as part of your investment portfolio. You're just living in it. So they're real dollars that are part of your retirement that are going up in value. You just yep. happen to live in that part of your retirement.
The beauty of the compound effect.
Correct. That's it.
Yep. And for a lot of the folks, again, it's not just the prices of the homes and the acceleration of the prices, but there's other benefits that come along with home ownership too. The most wealth is created inside of real estate. Most of people with homes that own their own homes have a net worth approximately 3 to 4 times those are the folks that do not. So it's a builder of wealth. It's a lot of people think that you have to be wealthy to buy a home. That's not true with the types of financing that you have available. It's actually a creator of wealth, and we need to do a better job as an industry of making sure people understand the difference between that you don't have to be wealthy to buy a home, but it can lead to it over just renting for those. And if you've sat on the sideline for the last year, that should be something that's in your thinking cap, along with the other advice that you get from your financial advisors to take advantage of employers matching IRAs, different things like that. That's outside of my realm. Real estate is a part of your financial picture that you should really be looking at to add that into your portfolio to make sure that you're building wealth and diversifying yourself. And that's the end of the presentation as far as what we had on that, but we do have some big news. I just want to put this up here to everybody. Last night, August 26th, the U.S. Supreme Court ended the CDC's moratorium on evictions. And we're just talking about rent and the pricing forces pushing rents up because landlords could not get people out. We had the Supreme Court earlier in the year said the same thing, but our administration, for some reason, thought that they didn't have to pay attention and they were going to push the bounds of what our Constitution and our laws say, but it didn't work. So again, I get it. I'm in real estate. I know a lot of people have very little sympathy for landlords, but you've got to understand that this has a big impact on the people who actually do want to rent. If you're unable to get people to pay the rent, then the people that can pay their rent are going to have unbelievable acceleration in their rent costs. It's also going to have an impact on the people who own that real estate. They're either going to sell it and those units are not going to be available for rental, or they're going to get foreclosed on because there's been very little assistance for the landlords. Tom, and it has to have some impact on underwriting, that when you've got a client that comes in and says, hey, I want to buy this investment property, your underwriters are probably beating those to death, making sure that they're getting information on who's making payments, verification and validation that these properties are actually cash flowing. Otherwise, you're looking at a lot of potential first payment defaults if that client isn't very.
Yeah, I mean you have to put more money down, at least 20% down, preferably 25% down. With 20% down, you have more of a loan level price adjustment. You have a little bit higher rate, or you have discount points that you have to pay. With 25% down, you get a little bit better pricing. They're all underwritten the same way. Credit score, your assets are your assets. You actually have to have more assets on your other properties, meaning you got to have more reserves. You have to have like 8 months or 9 month reserves on all of your properties. You just have to have a deeper credit profile to make sure that if there's a storm, that you can last the storm. That if your renters aren't paying, you have a vacancy factor. So you just have to be a little bit deeper on your assets than you would if you were buying a single family that you were going to live in. So they are underwritten a little bit harder.
Gotcha. The second thing is talking about mortgage rates and getting an update. One of the places that I look to get a lot of relevant industry news is the Mortgage News Daily. Mm-hmm. And how are the rates doing this week, Tom?
They are just like the rain in Portland. It comes a little bit, then the sunshine comes out, then it rains a little bit, then the sunshine comes out. So we have multiple price changes throughout the day. I had an instance where a gentleman wanted to buy a condominium and 10% down condo, and he had 2.5 on his mind. For some reason, he was going to get 2.5, and he was told by, let's just say, we'll call it Rocket, some rocket company, that he was going to get 2.5, and we were at 3%, and he did not like 3%, and the rate was 3% because we were not charging him $12,000 to close, and honestly, I should have gave him 2.5 and charged him $12,000 to close because that's what he wanted. I really thought it was smart for him to take that $12,000 and maybe put 20% down and avoid PMI, but I was not supposed to think for him. I literally, was not. He wanted the 2.5. He was so stuck on 2.5, he could not get off of 2.5, but he was willing to pay for that. My point being is we get so hung up on rate, we forget what our objective is. And our objective is to pay our house down, to pay our house off, to pay our principal down. So rates are going to move. They're going to go up and they're going to go down. So right now they're right around 3%, 3.1. And when I quote that off of a 30-day lock, and I quote that off of a 0 point, meaning 0 discount point. So when you get quoted a rate, like if you look at a national rate, a lot of those rates include a 1 point discount. So make sure you read the fine print and make sure you know that you're looking at a 30-day lock when you get quoted a rate. So just be careful. So when you hear the word rate, you might be 60 days out and being told a 30-day rate lock. That really doesn't mean anything to you. It just doesn't mean anything. So get with a professional and make sure you're comparing apples to apples when you hear the word rate. That's my advice.
Right. So sometimes it's worth it. But we used to tell everybody that's what the truth in lending disclosure was for, is to make sure that you're comparing apples to apples. When you look at the APR on your truth in lending statement, your annualized percentage rate, correct, that shows you the cost of your credit. And that includes your closing costs and upfront fees. Yeah. Added into it. So you can really get a good idea. Do you guys still do that? I know with all the changes that have occurred in the last few years and issuing CDs, they probably don't call it a truth in lending statement now. They call it something different.
Yeah, CD is, there's an LE, which is a loan estimate, and there's a CD, which is a closing disclosure. So a CD does not have music on it. So a lot of, in order to compare the CD or the LE, you have to look at the APR, but there's a lot of trickery that goes on there. Some of the lenders will not include some of the APR fees to make it look less than. So you really need to have someone that you trust to dial it in for you. A lot of lenders won't disclose an owner's policy, an owner's title policy, because it is optional. But if they do not disclose that to you in the initial loan estimate, and then you go to the table and say, I want that, they have to pay for that. That lender has to pay for that as a cost to cure because
Right.
they did not initially do that. It's one of the main things, or one of the things that they leave out to make their costs look lower than the other person's.
Yeah.
So just call me and I can go through all that with you.
Yep. There's trade-offs, and you can go through and analyze those type of things to see whatever works out best for you. And Tom is definitely the guy. I've been working with you for almost 20 years now.
Right.
And know that you're a solutions-based person, and you fit people with the right solution.
It's fun too.
Each one of their loans. So where do you see the rates going? What are your talking heads at Caliber Home Loans telling you? Right now we might be in the low threes. A couple weeks ago, we were in the high twos. What do you think long term, by the end of the year, by next year? Do you think that we're going to stay the same? Or
I think they're going to go flat. I mean, they're up and down within a quarter is what I feel. I could be 100% wrong. I mean, even if they shoot up to 4, I see house prices going down.
Mhm.
So it's relative. It's going to, the end result's going to still be around the same payment. So I don't really get too excited about rates. I've closed rates in the high 8s before, and I've closed them in the low 2s. So, and that's a span from 1996 till now. So I've never really gotten too excited, because the minute I did, it just makes me not sleep, and it's not good when I don't sleep. So it's like rates are going to be whatever they are when you got to do what you got to do. You can't really, you know what I mean? When it's time to buy a house, it's time to buy a house, and the rates will be whatever they are then. So.
Right now, too, the function, and just to point out another thing, the appreciation in home prices have been offset by extremely low interest rates.
Correct.
So even though the home prices are high, and the highest that they've been in a while, the low interest rates offset that, and your payments actually, not as a percentage of total income, and I don't have the slide to put up, but I can tell you it's the lowest it's been, even pre 2000, as a percentage of your monthly income. Because of those low interest rates, the mortgage payments are less of a part of your household expense than it has been in a long time. So the housing affordability portion is extremely low. So yeah, you're paying a lot for a home, but your payment's going to be really low.
And on another note too, if you go to an apartment and you pay first month and last month's rent, it might cost you $3,000 to get into an apartment. And then if you go get a KHC loan with down payment assistance, it might cost you $500 up front for an appraisal that you can actually get back at closing. And then you don't have a payment for 59 days if you set it up right, with seller paid closing costs. So you can get into a house for nearly $500 up front with it back at closing and nothing down. And then it blows me away sometimes how that can be worked. And it's cheaper to get into a house, and your payment with taxes and insurance can be less than rent.
Yeah. So I think on that note, we're going to wrap it up. Mr. McNamara.
Thank you. Always a pleasure.
Yep. Again, Tom McNamara with Caliber Home Loans. If somebody wanted to get a hold of you to talk more about getting a loan for their primary residence or any type of investment properties,
859-468-5626. It spells Got Loan.
And if they wanted to apply online with you,
the best is www. What is it? Got Loans? Or I would go to, I forgot my URL.
I think it's Caliber Home Loans / Thomas McNamara.
Yeah. So
long one, but
well, yeah, that's a long one, but yeah, just call my phone number. I'll give it to you. I'll send it to you.
Good deal. And I'm Greg Trainer with Wyndham-Lyons Realty Services, where passion for real estate will move you. If you want to get a hold of me or one of our great real estate agents at our brokerage that serves Northern Kentucky and Cincinnati, Greater Cincinnati, our phone number is 513-322-2905. And you can always visit us on wyndhamlyons.com, WYNDHAMLYONS.com. Again, Greg Trainer with the real estate update, and Thomas McNamara. Appreciate everybody. If you have any questions, feel free to give us a call.
Thanks, Craig.
Thanks.